And welcome to the Scarlet N Great podcast. This is your co-host, Florida Cory, speaking. Once again, no Johnny. I've told you many times what's up with him right now. He's got some domestic responsibilities. Wishes you all the best, of course. So I want to thank you all again for the support you've been giving us recently. Thank you again to James Yoder and Chat Sports. Thank you to everybody who's been helping us, been listening to us, been there from the start. We appreciate all your love and support. We will continue to try to bring you free Buckeye content as much as humanly possible. We've been cranking it up a little bit lately. There's been some good news, bad news, indifferent news, things to talk about, whatever. Regarding the Ohio State Buckeyes, we did our foray into the Ohio State basketball team with the transfer of Jamari Wheeler yesterday, and I'm going to go back into football today because Ohio State did have their pro day. And there are stories revolving around the pro day, but one in particular we're going to cover today, which is going to be quarterback Justin Fields, as you probably could have guessed yourselves from the title, from the description, from everything. I want to talk a little bit about Justin Fields. Look, we all know what's going on with Justin Fields right now, right? I mean, I don't have to catch you up to speed pretty much. I will a little bit, but obviously you kind of know what's going on. First and foremost, I do want to give you a challenge for this video. We do appreciate we've surpassed 250 subscribers. I'd like to get to 300 if we can. Let's try for the next number again, getting to 300. I mean, maybe when we get to 500, we'll do a giveaway. We do have some nice merchandise, Scarlet N Great branded merchandise, and I might get a little generous. Might give a nice little giveaway here. Do a giveaway thing if we get to 500 subscribers. So, but first, let's try for 300. Short-term goals first, 300. We appreciate all the support as always, and try to get this video to 100 likes again. We're going to try for that one again. Didn't quite get the mark last time, but we'll try for it again. But again, as always, welcome to Scarlet N Great. Justin Fields is a guy that is having a roller coaster of an offseason, and not even by his own doing. You know, it's a little different, okay? It's a little different when players are making their own mistakes off the field and it's costing them. But Justin has no control over what's going on right now. That he's been a model citizen and a great person. There's nothing of his doing. He's put it all out laid it all on the field for people, and was pretty much just seeing adulation for since high school on to his years in college, right? So he's done nothing. He's not getting a couple of DUIs, for example. Wink, wink. That make you question his character a little bit or question his decision making, right? I mean, even then, you really should. I mean, you got to understand, it's a college kid. They're going to do things here and there. So even then, you shouldn't just scold them for the rest of their lives. It shouldn't cost them dearly necessarily. But uh, Justin has literally done nothing. Nothing. You know, up until this point, Justin has had just about everything under the sun scrutinized with him. In fact, I bet you anything. In fact, I don't think he's ever been quite this scrutinized since before high school. He's always been that can't miss 5-star quarterback, right? There's very few less than stellar games so far have been. I mean, very few. There's been only a few, and maybe even within those games that were less than stellar, there's a few plays. Have been the focus, as if no other quarterback has had bad plays or bad games. No other quarterback in this draft, or at least in the top tier of this draft. His arm strength has been questioned in the past. His accuracy has been questioned at times, but most of all, his ability to read defenses and go through his progressions. That seems to be the highlight topic, or at least was before the combine. I'm sorry. In the normal year, we would have a combine in his pro day. It's gotten so ridiculous that commentators such as Dan Orlovsky have had to address and debunk these claims. Now, is Justin Fields the perfect quarterback? Of course he's not. He has flaws in his game like anyone else, like anybody else. Trevor Lawrence does. Zach Wilson does. Mac Jones certainly does. And Justin Fields, he definitely helped himself. When he had a monster pro day. I mean, leading up into, he seemed like he was easily the most scrutinized quarterback in the top tier leading up to the pro day. Then he goes to his pro day, runs a 4.4 40. He's making every throw asked of him with strength and accuracy. I think he only missed a couple. And of course, he wowed everybody with that reverse the field, running to the opposite side of the field, opposite arm, squaring up, throwing it 65 yards in the air to C.J. Saunders in the end zone and stride. Perfect throw. So, you ask yourselves, you've seen Justin Fields, you've seen him play the last couple of years, play really good football, lead Ohio State to the playoffs twice. Uh, wasn't perfect against Clemson, but there's a lot of underlying factors on that. Threw 2 interceptions in the first Clemson game. You're probably saying, "One perfect." Son, what do you mean? I mean the first Clemson game. Let me clarify. And one interception, which is a great play by Isaiah Simmons, and he, Justin missed it. Great play by Isaiah, and then of course the second one was kind of on Chris Olave. It was just a miscommunication between Olave. It wasn't a bad read or anything by Justin. I will die on this hill. J.K. Dobbins was not the right read on that. For those who say he should have thrown to J.K., J.K. had a bum ankle and he had two guys converging right on him as the ball was being released. So stop it. He made the right read, went for the end zone. You could argue maybe he go to Austin Mack on the sideline there, but that doesn't score. And he was going for the win, or at least a tie. I think it was actually the win at the time. Extra point would have been the win. Okay, he's played great football, been a great player since high school, been a leader, somebody generally everybody likes. So why is he being scrutinized so heavily now? Is it just because it's the draft process? I don't know. I mean, to some degree, yeah. But I got it down to about 3 things I want to talk about. One of them's a pretty touchy subject, I'll admit. But I want to talk about it because the NFL history deems that I should talk about it. The first thing is, now I don't entirely pin it on this, but as I said, history suggests I have to mention it as a possibility. The scrutiny of not going through his reads and not reading a defense has historically within the NFL been a constant criticism of young black quarterbacks. Look, I'm a white guy who's close to middle age. I'm not an expert on this. I understand it. I have not experienced all this personally, so there's no way I could talk about it as if it's my own experience because it's not. But I've been an avid football fan for over 30 years, and these are definitely, you can't question it, criticisms that I've heard. You've heard, I've heard quite often, over and over time, specifically with black quarterbacks. That's the primary problem. The secondary problem is this. Of course, the first being prejudice is just wrong. But the secondary problem is the NFL, through their scouts, their GMs, the coaches throughout history in the NFL, has painted themselves into a bit of a corner because we've obviously come a long way with guys like Michael Vick, Jamarcus Russell, Cam Newton, all being taken with the first pick. And 2 of those guys having success. And people pretty much understand Jamarcus Russell was his own worst enemy. But guys like Donovan McNabb, Deshaun Watson, Pat Mahomes, et cetera, are have had success in the NFL or are having success now. Lamar Jackson's another one. But because of the NFL's history, now when a black quarterback gets that kind of scrutiny, even if it's true and it's just because he happens to be black, not because he's black, it's just this particular quarterback just struggles with this area of his game. Even if it's true and the guy happens to be black, we have to question it now. It doesn't necessarily mean it's that case every time, but I don't blame people for bringing it up. Let's put it that way. I'm not saying I know for sure. But that is a possibility that is there. And honestly, right now, I'm just trying, like everybody else, to make some sense as to why Fields is suddenly getting this kind of criticism out of nowhere. But going to the second reason here, this presents a double whammy for Justin. First one is of no control of his own. The second one is in his control because he chose to go to Ohio State, and I'm glad he did. I'm really, really glad he did. But there's a double whammy for Justin. If there's any prejudices about him, or that he has to overcome, the added addition of the fact that he's an Ohio State quarterback is also another obstacle he has to overcome. Unfortunately, now let's be real. As Ohio State fans, we haven't had any type of QB success in the NFL. Oh, you know who Ohio State's most successful quarterback is? Mike Tomczak. Did half of you even know who that was? I remember watching him a little bit. That's how old I am. I remember watching him a little bit. I think he played up until 1999 with Pittsburgh and Chicago, and maybe another team or so. Not a bad backup, but he did get a lot of chances to start, and he ended up with 88 touchdowns, 106 interceptions, and a 53% completion percentage. Do you really want to brag about that? Look at our quarterback heritage. I don't know about that. We can say all you want that you should judge the player, not the helmet. And you know what? That's true. I agree with you on this. Uh, but there's no way to get it out of your head that Ohio State just hasn't been successful at that position. And it's true. Some of these colleges known for being QB gurus of sort, I guess you can say, well, they weren't. I've seen this on Twitter. They weren't known until that one guy finally hit, until that one guy became a great player. But how many teams in the NFL want to risk several years of their franchise to take that chance? I mean, sometimes you don't risk several years. Sometimes you decide after a year you're just done with the guy, or even 2 years, like we'll talk about in just a second. You're done with the guy. But how many teams want to take that risk? And when it's like you see other guys out there you think might be better, and you just say, well, I'm going to go get different route because BYU's had more success at the quarterback. I don't know how much it means to anything, but they've had Steve Young. Jim McMahon was a successful quarterback. Wasn't great, but he's successful. Ty Detmer was a really good backup for many years. Doesn't mean every one of them. John Beck comes to mind is going to be great, but you know, it's just I understand the perception that's there. I understand why an organization will look at that and say, Ohio State is just not put them out. I don't know what to say. I don't know if I want to risk it and take a draft pick on them. Now, maybe if point number 3 had not happened, that would go away. See, I believe number 3. We talk about the third reason, and the third and final reason I think is a cumulative to why Fields is getting this kind of scrutiny, why people are talking themselves out of liking him, is because Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins didn't have any recent failures that the NFL could point to. I mean, the last quarterback we even thought of that where it was going to be an NFL guy, maybe Cardale Jones, but he was a 4th round draft pick. It wasn't somebody that people put their franchise on. We talk about what team's going to take that chance. One team already did, and it failed. Dwayne not succeeding with Washington is a 2-part issue, obviously. Washington is an absolute dumpster fire of an organization. Terrible. I almost feel bad for people who go there. Now, Terry's making it. Chase is making it. Good on them. But the hardest position in all of sport, which is quarterback, I mean, you have to have the right setting, the right coaches, the right personnel, the right scouting department. You have to have the right office department. You have to have the right everything in place to make it work. And to make it work at a level that they expect it to when you draft a 1st-round quarterback. But there is an issue with Dwayne. Dwayne appeared to be his own worst enemy at times. Even Chase Young has said his maturity needs work. Urban Meyer and Zach Smith have both alluded to that fact. In either a podcast or press conference or statement or whatever or interview, they've alluded to this issue. That doesn't mean he can't be successful, and I hope he is in Pittsburgh. I'm rooting for Dwayne. But that being said, I don't think Washington drafted him in the 1st round so he can be successful elsewhere. And that issue, seeing a very recent quarterback from Ohio State not succeed at the team he was drafted at, you can make all the excuses you want, but that's going to give a lot of teams pause. And they're going to look, they're going to look a little extra hard at Ohio State quarterbacks. Says, look, Dwayne was the guy. Dwayne was the guy that was like the most NFL ready of any quarterback in Ohio State history. Or maybe you say not NFL ready, but he had NFL attributes more than anybody, any quarterback in Ohio State history. I will die on that hill. You can argue with me, Troy Smith, all you want. I love Troy. Troy was a phenomenal college quarterback, had some pro ability. He wasn't on Dwayne's level as a pro prospect. I'm sorry, he just wasn't. And it crashed and burned. That has to be hurting Justin Fields. Probably why you're starting to see people talk themselves out of Justin a little bit. Well, he can't go through his reads. You can't go. You just fall back on those old stereotypes, those old tropes. And you do it because you're afraid of the helmet. You do it because you just saw somebody with the same helmet who looked like an easy he looked like an easy win for an NFL team, crash and burn. You just start to think to yourself, I don't know, maybe I don't want to take that chance. You know, and these are some of the reasons Justin has a ton of pressure on him to beyond that of a regular QB going to join the NFL. Ohio State, as I've mentioned, has long been a school that wasn't QB focused until Ryan Day, to be honest. Say, well, Corey, what are you talking about? We've had great quarterbacks. We got a Heisman winning quarterback, Troy Smith. This has not been a QB focused school. Ryan Day is considered the QB guru, and he's attempting to change a 100-year culture at the position that even continued with Urban Meyer. For example, Woody Hayes would have loved JT Barrett. Would have loved him. Few and far between, man. We've had pro style quarterbacks, very few and far between, and even fewer were considered long-term NFL material. Like I said, Mike Tomczak lasted 14 years in the NFL. Troy Smith, our Heisman winning QB, lasted 4. It's not a great track record. When other teams make fun of us, it's unfortunately not. There's nothing we can really do to combat it. I love Justin, and I hope for the best for him. I hope the best for Dwayne still. And as a fan of Justin, I hate hearing all this about Justin as much as you do. There have been plenty of videos showing him going through his progressions, or making the right reads, showing arm strength and accuracy on some very difficult NFL type throws. I'm a believer in him. I know Johnny is as well. I know the Buckeye Nation is. I appreciate the RJ Youngs of the world, the Dan Orlovskys of the world that defend him. And I know Dan said he's hearing work ethic issue, which, by the way, the work ethic issue comes out right after he has a monster pro day. That's some kind of coincidence, I imagine. And now that's the reason. Oh, no. It wasn't the other stuff. And now that is the reason he's been dropping. Okay. Very convenient. Never, people who would around the whack, Woody Hayes Athletic Center, for those who don't know, Ohio State fans, like Kevin Noon, for example, tweeted out, like, look, I'm not there all the time, but from everything that I hear, that's not what I heard about Justin. And I don't think a guy who tried to get the football season back as hard as he did, became a leader of that movement. I don't think a guy who came in the spring, learned the offense, and had a Heisman quality season all within a calendar year is a guy who doesn't work hard, learning a whole new offense, learning a whole new program, a whole new culture, a whole new roster. It just, come on, guys. I don't believe that for a second, but it conveniently comes out after a monster pro day. But that's, again, going back to Dan, that's just what he said he's hearing, not what he says he believes himself necessarily. And he debunked the idea that Justin doesn't go through his reads. So I consider him a friend on this situation. But I'm going to leave you with this, okay, before I end the show. Let's hope there's a silver lining to all this. There are teams that completely overthink the draft year after year and usually end up drafting high as a result every year. Of course, we like to see our favorite college football players go as high as possible. If Justin did drop for any of these reasons, it spares him from going to a terrible organization, and that is actually to his benefit. Look, no quarterback is perfect coming out of college. Every quarterback needs some work, and I'd personally love for Justin to go to an organization that has no doubts about his potential, no doubts about his character, an organization that traditionally makes good decisions, that can develop talent, and perhaps, these criticisms can also make Justin self-evaluate a little and get in the film room with his coaches and see if these things are even true. Like, am I really struggling with this? Am I really struggling with that? Can I improve here? Let me improve there. And I think he has the maturity level. This is where I give Justin the benefit of the doubt, more so than whoever's leaking these stupid rumors. I think Justin has the maturity necessary to do just that, to sit there and like, okay, I'm hearing the criticisms. I'm going to go sit and correct them if they even exist. And even if they don't exist, I'm still going to improve that part of my game. And also perhaps this puts a chip on his shoulder like it did Aaron Rodgers. We saw that work out pretty well. Now, combine these ideas here. You combine the ideas that he falls to the right organization, he has a chip on his shoulder, and he's even further evaluating who he is and can be as a quarterback as a result of the criticism he's facing right now. Then maybe it'll all be for the best and the best case scenario for Justin himself. As the players like to say, and as I agree with, God's got him. God's got the plan for him. and trust the process. With that, guys, I appreciate you tuning in. As always, goodbye, God bless, and go Buckeyes.